All right, we're back live. Um, what I'm
Hey.
seeing is in OBS, I'm having trouble transmitting, but in YouTube, I'm showing that our connection is excellent. We're dropping a lot of frames for some reason. Nope, now we're green. Okay, I think maybe we're good now. I think we need to get moving anyway, uh, because we need to get this recorded, even if we wind up not being able to live stream the Cinemini. So let's get synced up and get rolling because right now everything's showing green.
All right. Let's see here.
Let me go ahead. I'm going to
All right.
stop this recording and restart it because I've already got 8 minutes of me being goofy. Okay, I'm ready.
All right. One, two, three.
Boop. All right, we're now synced up. Are you ready?
Ready.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the CinemaMen podcast. Tonight, you're in for a treat because we have for you a Cinemini right off the rack of your favorite CinemaMen spices. We're going to talk about our favorite disaster movies. And we don't mean bombs.
Yeah.
We don't mean bad movies. We mean movies about disasters, not movies that were disasters. An important difference to note. For those of you joining us for the first time, in Cineminis, John and I, who I will introduce in a moment, discuss topics related to film. It might be listing our favorite films like we're doing tonight in a particular genre. It could be talking about an actor. It could be talking about an aspect of film that we enjoy. It could be something not related to film at all. It's just a unedited, raw conversation that we're having about something typically related to the movies. Now, you've heard him hyped up. I know you're excited to meet him. You heard him say, "Yay!" My co-host, John Murphy.
Yay. Again. And then, hey, how's it
Hey,
going?
good, good. I'm glad you're with me as always, John. I am Matt Hurdle, your other host of the Cinema Men podcast. And tonight, as I said, we're going to get into some disaster movies. So, John, we just came off The Towering Inferno, one of the classic disaster movies that appeared during the 1970s, in which there was a big surge of these type of movies. Lots of them
Mm-hmm.
coming out. You know, you've got the Airport series, you've got Earthquake, you've got the Poseidon Adventure, of course, you've got the Towering Inferno. Now, we saw that trend pop
Mm-hmm.
up again in the 90s, and more recently, although in a more muted form, we saw another one in the 2000s. Disaster movies, it would seem, are here to stay. Although they do seem to be rather cyclical. We get a bunch of them in a row, and then they go away, and then we get another bunch. We're probably due
Yeah.
another bunch. Actually, it's been a while since we've had a good round of disaster movies.
Yeah.
And so, with all that said, John and I have been fortunate enough to see a number of them, and tonight we're going to talk about some of our favorites.
Right.
John,
Would you like me? Yes.
give me one of your favorite disaster movies.
So, the very first one that I would have to talk about, probably my favorite of all time, and I should caveat this with you've probably seen more disaster movies than me. Um, the 90s wave, I was really into. The ones in the 2000s and later, I really haven't liked, and so I haven't watched a lot of those. Um, but for me, Armageddon is number one on my
Hmm.
list, and it's gonna be hard to top, to be honest. It has a lot of things I love about movies. It has Bruce Willis. I'll watch anything with Bruce Willis in it because he is amazing. It has really good action, a really interesting story, good characters, good character development, and I just love it. It's very entertaining. Oh, it has a great music by Aerosmith, of course. Um,
Uh,
and kind of an all-star cast of characters.
Possibly due to a
Um,
Liv Tyler connection there.
yeah, maybe, maybe. Uh, so this is a movie. It's a
It
meteor
is a
shower movie or
movie.
a mat.
It's true.
Yeah, it's a extinction level event. This
Hmm.
meteor shower is about to hit Earth, and it is up to Bruce Willis and his ragtag group of oil drillers to go up into this asteroid and basically drill a hole into it and plant a large explosive that then destroys the meteor or shoots, uh, breaks it into pieces so that each half will go around or bypass Earth.
Hmm. Or
And
get
it's
broken
it's
up in
that
its
story.
atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah,
The only thing I would change to that is that it is actually just one meteor. I don't think it's a shower of them, but it's one giant
that's
like
right.
meteor.
There's a meteor shower that precedes the giant meteor that destroys a space shuttle
Hmm.
at the beginning of the movie. um, the movie obviously is well known. It made almost it made $500,000 at the box office. It had
Half
a
a million
twin movie.
dollars.
Uh,
What did you say? I'm sorry.
sorry,
I may have misheard you.
half a billion. I
Oh, half a
misspoke.
billion.
Half,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
That makes much more sense. I was like, there's no
yeah,
way that movie made 500,000. Like
yeah,
that was like a drop in the bucket for what it made.
yeah. It had a twin movie, Deep Impact,
Hmm.
a movie that was very similar that came out around the same time. And there's this whole, we should probably talk about this sometime, but there's this whole concept of twin movies, movies that are made around the same time
Yep.
with basically the same plot.
One of
And there's
the
several of them.
one of my choices has a twin. Also,
Okay. But yeah, that's my number one pick. I can watch that movie pretty much anytime. It's funny, it's entertaining, and I don't like Michael Bay movies generally, but this one is an exception. I really like this movie.
it was a big movie. I remember when it came out, it had a lot of coverage in the media, a lot of promotion. They must have spent a ton on marketing for that film. And
Hmm.
every time I hear that movie's name, I start hearing, "Cause I miss you, baby." And that daggum Aerosmith song.
Yeah,
Don't wanna close my eyes. Don't wanna
yeah,
fall asleep. I'll stop singing now. But yeah, that song almost synonymous with that movie. Well, I guess it is in a lot of
yep,
cases. Yeah, it's a good one.
yep.
That's a
It
real
was the
fun
music
one.
video. Yep, the music video for that song had
Hmm.
clips from Armageddon in it.
It certainly did.
Yep.
So, my first pick that I'm going to talk about was also from the 90s, which most of mine are from the 90s. I was in prime disaster movie mode when that fad kicked in. And
Hmm.
that movie is Dante's Peak, starring Pierce Brosnan.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm.
The twin to that movie being Volcano with Tommy
Yep.
Lee Jones. Of the two, I
Hmm.
feel like Dante's Peak is the better movie by far.
Oh
But they
yeah,
were
for
both
sure.
real popular and big movies. Dante's Peak has Pierce Brosnan playing I think he's a geologist, or I don't even know if this is a thing, but a volcanologist. Like he studies volcanoes and seismic, like seismology and things like that. I'm just adding ology to the end of words and hoping it works
Yeah.
out. But he's studying a volcano,
Podcastology.
and the volcano winds up blowing, and it follows him trying to get his family and the town as evacuated as he can from this volcano that's erupting and causing all kinds of trouble for the people there. Thrilling movie. Lots of great scenes. One of my all-time favorite disaster movies. It's one of those that if I catch it on TV, I will just watch it. Like, nope, we're watching this movie now. This is what's
Yeah.
happening. Sorry, everybody else. because it's just I love it. There's something about it that I really enjoy, and
Hmm.
it's not very realistic. There's lots of crazy things that happen, lots of really happy coincidences in which the characters all make it out. Not all of them, but the main characters are good.
Isn't there a scene where they're running away from the lava or something like that?
I know there's a
I've only
scene where
seen the
they're in
movie
their
a few
truck
times. But...
and they're running away from like an ash cloud in the truck, and there's
Oh yeah.
like volcanic rock crashing around, and they wind up
Yep.
crashing
Yep.
into a cave and taking refuge in there or something. It's
Yeah.
it's intense, maybe a little ridiculous, but a whole lot of fun to watch. Which in general, that's disaster movies, right? You're not talking about award-winning plots or anything. What you are talking about are some great special effects, a lot of thrilling action, and a good survival story where you've got people trying to survive natural disasters that bring extraordinary circumstances to the table.
Yeah. Usually a lot of heroism.
Uh, One I do have on my list, which, like you said, I've got a big list. I won't cover all of mine, but I'm going to go ahead and do one more since you've only got two on your list. Is Airplane, a movie a lot of people don't consider a disaster movie, but is actually a disaster movie.
Yeah.
The famous
It's weird to
Airplane.
it's weird to think about, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Got Leslie Nielsen in his prime starring in that film. Surely you can't be serious that I picked Airplane, but
Don't call me Shirley.
exactly. It's a classic. It's a classic of all time. It's one of my favorite movies. It's one of the best parody movies I think that's ever been made. And it is a disaster movie. It's about an airline in which everybody eats. Was it the chicken or the fish? I think it was the chicken. No, or maybe it's the. I don't remember. One of them was poisoned or bad, and they all wind up passing out. And an old ex Air Force pilot has to try to land a commercial jet, and it is hilarious and amazing. And if you haven't seen Airplane, why are you listening to this? Go watch Airplane.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's one of my favorite comedies as well. I
Mm-hmm.
never considered it a disaster movie just because just the ridiculousness that happens and
Well, and it is
but
actually
I
parroting disaster
yeah.
movies, but
Yeah, for sure.
the movie that it's based off of was a disaster film, and of course, it's parodying the entire genre, really. So,
Um
yeah, give me another one.
yeah, and I'm going to add another one to my list cuz I just thought of one, but my second pick is a movie uh that I watched a lot before Armageddon, but that I hold a special place in my heart, and it's the movie Backdraft,
Oh yes.
which is a disaster thriller action film directed by Ron Howard, and this was 1991. Stars Kurt Russell, so you can see why I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Robert De Niro, William Baldwin, Donald Sutherland,
Yep.
Jennifer Jason Leigh. Um, Also, it seems to be a trend that a lot of disaster movies have a A-list cast or a lot of star power.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's a side note. This is it's similar to, no, it's not similar to Towering Inferno, but it involves the fire department, and it's about the Chicago Fire Department. They end up putting out fires, of course, that's your job. Uh, but it's about these particular firefighters. One of them is this veteran. He's really good at his job, and you're really tracking this more rookie uh, firefighter who's just got on the job, but he has a relationship with fire with his father, and it's just this story of almost treating the fire as an entity or as like a living being.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about the backdraft and how fire can be very deceptive, and you have to watch out for it. And I remember scenes where they're checking doorknobs and a guy forgets to check the door. He opens it up and the heat from the fire just melts his masks, and
Mm-hmm.
um, it was a very real movie. At an age where I probably shouldn't have been watching it, but I did anyway. And actually, my first exposure to Robert De Niro.
Hmm.
That was the first movie I watched with him in it. But I like this movie a lot. Has Kurt Russell. He's great in it. William Baldwin is good in it. He's one of the Baldwin brothers, one of
Mm-hmm.
the lesser known ones. And Donald Sutherland is like this ex arson, or he's an arsonist. Arsonist, kind of like a they do like a Silence of the Lambs thing where they go talk to him to get ideas about who's setting these fires. Really good movie. Highly recommended.
I agree 100%. This movie is a gem. It's one of the best disaster movies out there, in my opinion. And if you haven't seen it, you really should. It's outstanding. It's also fairly unique in that this was a movie that was explicitly about fire and firefighters, and that's the first time I can think of hearing anything about this. And in fact, even now, you don't see a lot of movies that focus on firefighters as the main characters. They're always there as heroes and as people, saving other people and working fires, but not as the focus of the film. And this puts them center stage, and it's real. It's rough. It's a hard movie to sit through in a lot of ways, and it's visceral, right? It's just really really good. That's an
Yeah.
excellent choice. And in fact, when we just recently watched the Towering Inferno, there was a part where a guy opens a door, and I'm like, "Don't do it. There's going to be a backdraft," and there
And it goes up
was.
the ceiling.
And
Hmm.
I knew that that was the case because of this movie. That's the only reason I knew that that would have ever, it would have never even occurred to me that that would be a thing if it wasn't for this movie. So
Hmm.
I've got to give it high marks, and that's an excellent choice.
Did you know? And I just found this out. Backdraft 2 is a thing and it was released in 2019.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It must have not been very good because I feel like we'd have heard about it if it was.
Yeah. Probably not.
That's unfortunate because the first movie is amazing.
Yeah, it is great.
So I'm going to give another two real quick. One I'm going to super gloss over because we've already covered it in an episode of the CinemaMen podcast, and that is the movie Twister.
Mm.
Twister is one of my favorite movies. I just love the heck out of that movie. It's not perfect. It's not a 9 or a 10. It might be a 9. I don't remember what I gave the rating to it, but it's no 10. But I can't help it. I have so much fun watching that movie. I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. So I've got to mention it. I feel bad if I don't mention it, but I won't get into it because we've got a whole episode dedicated to that movie. The second
Yeah.
one is another one that I feel is kind of unique to the disaster movie, even though it follows the same formula that they all do, and that is Daylight, starring Sylvester Stallone.
I've not ever seen that.
Oh, I love this movie. So in this movie, I don't remember the exact geographical setting, but that's not important. There's a tunnel where traffic can go underneath I think it's a river or a body of water, essentially, and it's a very crowded tunnel. And what happens is basically two wrecks happen at the same time in this tunnel, one on one end and one on the other. And what happens is both ends of the tunnel wind up collapsed, and you can't get out of them. So you've got all the people who were in traffic going through this tunnel effectively stuck in the middle of it. Well, as you can imagine, things go south from there. A fire starts, the tunnel starts to break down, it starts to slowly flood, and you've got Sylvester Stallone trying to lead a bunch of people out of this tunnel and to safety. And this is another one of those disaster movies that I just absolutely love. This one came out in 1996. It's got Viggo Mortensen in it, for those of you who are big Aragorn fans.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a treat to watch, man, from beginning to end. It's definitely got a little bit of the cheese factor to it, but it doesn't matter. I love it. And don't be surprised if we don't see Backdraft and or Daylight show up on the official review list before much longer.
Oh, for sure.
We're getting into movies that I really like.
Hmm. The third one that I thought of just now was a movie I watched fairly recently called Greenland.
I have not seen this
Uh,
one.
yeah, I recommend it, especially because you're a disaster movie fan. But it came out last year in 2020. Um, Probably didn't get as much exposure as it should have just because of when it came out. And I believe it was direct to digital. I'm not sure if it even had a theatrical release. If it did, it wasn't playing at our
Yeah,
theater.
for some reason, the last year or so, I've been a little out of tune with new movies.
Hmm. Probably because of the COVID pandemic.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. I knew there had to be some reason.
We had our own disaster movie.
That's
We
true.
were making our own.
How long until we see COVID the movie?
Oh, it'll happen.
I mean, we've already kind of had like the Andromeda strain and Outbreak,
Outbreak,
Contagion,
yeah.
things like that. 12
Yeah.
Monkeys?
We'll
Nah, kinda.
we'll get a real life one here in a few years, I'm sure.
The Rock.
But Greenland stars Gerard Butler
Oh, okay.
and yep, and Morena Baccarin from Firefly
Okay, I'm
and
interested.
uh, Deadpool. Sorry,
Deadpool.
but it is this movie, huh?
Okay. Ryan
Deadpool.
Reynolds.
Yeah,
Okay,
Deadpool, not the Deadpool with Clint Eastwood.
I got you.
But anyway, this is a disaster movie, extinction level event, fragments coming down a la Armageddon, and you have Gerard Butler's character who has a wife, Marina Baccarin, and they have a diabetic son. And he's a structural engineer, and they get picked to go to a bunker underground, one of the few chosen to basically try to survive this event. And then once the event happens, to fix and repopulate the Earth.
Hmm.
And it's about their journey to do so. I liked it because it had a lot of human moments. There's a moment where the son gets taken, and Marina Baccarin is all alone. She's separated from Gerard Butler's character, and the kid is just taken by this man and woman who originally were thought to be helping them, and just that feeling of losing your child, and that person's just driving off with your child. It was conveyed very well in the movie, and the visual effects are good. The acting was decent, and I thought it was really good and underrated, like I said, because people just weren't going to the movies. But I think it would have done a lot better had it been a normal
I gotta
movie
say
year.
that sounds outstanding, and it is officially on my list to watch.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's pretty darn good.
I've just got one more I'm gonna mention. This
Okay.
one is one that I do actually plan on adding to our watch list pretty sometime in the future. I don't want to say pretty soon, but it will appear, and that is the Poseidon Adventure.
Hmm.
The reason I say that is because I saw this movie when I was young. It was on late night TV, and I saw it, and I was absolutely enraptured with it. And I haven't seen it in its entirety since. It's been a very long time. But this is a classic adventure. It's one of the quote unquote big three disaster movies of the 70s. That's debatable depending on what your tastes are and what you like. But there was a remake, but the original came out around the same time. I think 2 years earlier, so 72, somewhere in that range. But
Hmm.
it's got Gene Hackman as the star in it, and he is on a cruise liner, and this boat winds up getting hit by a rogue wave, or something happens to the boat, and it winds up flipped upside down in the ocean, but still floating. And so it's very unique in that you've got a cast of people on this boat trying to get to safety, but they're literally in an upside down world, floating on top of a bobbing ocean, trying to navigate their way by walking on ceilings and climbing around stuff, and just navigating these mazes of ships. You know, these massive cruise liners are just absolute mazes, and trying to find your way around upside down, where you can't go out the classic doors because they're literally underwater. It's very unique and very engaging, and a great movie. And I really, really want to revisit it, and I want to do it on the podcast. So, absolutely, you guys can expect to see this one showing up. Although I don't want to overload us on disaster movies, even though I'm super tempted to. So, it may be a little bit before we see it pop up, but rest assured it will.
When was that? When did that come out?
I think 72. Because I think I
72?
heard it was 2 years earlier than Daylight, but let me look that up just to make sure. Yeah, it was 72.
Yeah. And there was a sequel that happened many decades later.
Well, there was a remake.
Because I think, okay,
They
I have
remade
that
it.
one.
Yeah, and
with Kurt Russell.
I don't remember. There was also a TV movie made with it in 2005, starring Adam Baldwin on your Firefly kick.
Hey. Yes.
I have not seen the TV show. I did watch the remake, but I want to go back to the original.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking about the aspects of disaster movies. It's funny that they all have similar tropes or criteria for making a disaster movie.
Yeah, they all follow a fairly standard formula. That is, you meet the characters in the first part of the movie. They do endearing things, just like in Commando, where you see Schwarzenegger and his daughter, feeding ice cream to deer and fishing and going parasailing or whatever they are doing.
Uh-huh.
And so you get attached to the characters, and there's usually like the rich snobby character who's had everything handed to him. There's usually the poor down on his luck character, but who has a lot of life skills and common sense. A lot of times there will be some sort of a professional involved. So you'll have like, a rescue worker or a firefighter or an old doctor or something like that. And they're all thrown in and they have to all get out. And there's usually at least one weak person who's got either a broken leg or a sprained ankle, or is a kid or is an old lady who needs extra help. Like you see that almost in every one of these films. But it's a formula that's old and that works and that I love. So I'm fine with it.
For sure.
All right. Well, that's going to put us pretty close to our 30-minute mark. So any closing remarks, John?
No, just that I haven't seen as many disaster movies as Matt, and I need to change that. But I generally like them, and I think the ones that we've mentioned are some of the best that I know of. So check those out if you haven't seen them.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of a flip-flop because you were more of a Tom Cruise fan last show, and we didn't actually plan it that way, but it worked out this time. So thanks everybody for listening. We always appreciate you giving us a listen, whether you're watching us on YouTube live, whether you're watching us recorded on YouTube, or whether you're on the podcast listening in your car or in your headphones or wherever you're at. We appreciate it. We do shows. We release a show every week on Friday. 1 week you're going to get a movie review. These are long form, in-depth podcasts in which we really dig into movies, talk about as many aspects of them as we can. And then on the following week, you will have one of these, Cinemini, which is a fairly raw, unedited, basically conversation of us just talking about something related to the movies. So we're super glad you're here. If you want to get in touch with us, we love feedback, and John is our feedback guy.
I'm the feedback guy. You can go to cinemamenpodcast.com. That's our website, official website. You can check out new and old episodes there. We have every single episode we've ever done on that website. We love to hear from listeners, so feedback is appreciated. You can email us at feedback@cinemamenpodcast.com. or go to Twitter and look up CinemaMen Pod. That's our Twitter handle, and you can send us a message or follow us or whatever you feel like doing there.
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much for listening. We look forward to coming to you again, I guess, in a week or on Friday, depending on when you're listening to this. And we'll see you soon. Okay, and cut. Live viewers, thank you for tuning in. That's going to conclude us for tonight. So we're going to go ahead and call it here. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for sticking with us. And most importantly, thanks for dropping in. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
We do this for fun, but we also do it to maybe, brighten your day a little bit or get you something, get you a little more interested in movies. So thanks. Everybody have a great night, and we'll see you again